one of their henchmen commented on a video I made. Um, I don't know why they do this, but they pretend to be regular people. It's obviously them, right? Like they'll literally give themselves away. Like they'll mention a hobby I had 20 years ago, and they'll pretend to be into that hobby. Like it's a super obscure hobby, like reading Hyperlipid or something, right? Anyway, I don't know why they do this. They're such losers. They're simultaneously arrogant and like to gloat over doing really easy shit like torturing one nurse, but they're also super fragile and paranoid. And like the moment there's any remote challenge, no matter how obscure the risks, they freak out and do overkill, like ban my account. So like if I post one of their orcs, they'll immediately go on social media and mute my account. Right. I guess that's the nature of a psychopathic men is they're simultaneously they can beat a baby in the face and make them it makes them feel strong and powerful, but they're also really vulnerable and fragile at the same time. Like you can see this with Trump, like the kind of shit he does. Like he'll do the most bully shit where all the power's in his favor and he'll feel powerful doing it. And then the moment he gets any pushback, he freaks out like a little bitch. Even no matter how obscure or how weak the target is. And that's a lot like these people. Anyway, yeah, so one of their orcs was like pretending to comment on my video. And they mentioned Lucy Letby. Um, I'm not going to say definitively she's a scapegoat, but it looks like she's a scapegoat. And it looks like this is what actually went down. As you know, the billionaires, the global billionaires, are tricking all the people in the liberal world to fuck their societies up, leveraging hate, social division to do this. You can see the same phenomenon happening now here, happening in the UK. They hire all these ass lickers to increase social division, to increase xenophobia, to look for scapegoats, right? And they're also voting in pawns working for the global billionaires who are defunding their societies, right? Anyway, long story short, they went into Brexit from this, and their NHS is going broke, and they keep voting in people who are making them more and more like us, and they don't realize there's no worse fate than being like America, but they keep falling for it. Like, oh, Pakistani mayor of London, like that just like here, that has a lot of sway, and then it's just like they keep going broke, right? So the NHS has been having a lot of problems because they keep defunding it, and they won't stop until it looks like America, right? And yeah, they're chronically understaffed. They don't pay their junior doctors. Like it's crazy. And so it's very, very believable the most medically fragile patients, which are neonatal intensive care unit patients, babies who are also really sick. There was a spate of neonatal ICU deaths in some NHS hospital, right? And some of the data suggests it's from chronic short staffing and lack of infrastructure. Given, you've got the Tories, and now you have even Labor going further right and tricking the people to shoot themselves in the foot because they don't want to see Pakistanis. Same shit they do here, like make them rape a nurse or make them punch their gardeners, and meanwhile they're going broke, but they're so high in a delusion of specialness that they fall into it. Same crap over there. I mean, they're not as bad as us. No one's as bad as us because we are the home base of the Illuminati. The global billionaires' home base is America, and it's like completely a liberal savage country where the poor get kicked in the face and the rich don't have to pay any taxes, right? And the wealth gaps keep doing this while they hire an army of flying monkeys to confuse you. That's the real issue, right? Layers and layers of flying monkeys. So you have the first layer of flying monkey, which is like the real problem is trans or nurses who speak bad. The next layer of flying monkey will pretend to be a liberal progressive, but then they'll gaslight anybody who thinks there's a problem with economics in this country is probably a Nazi and we're richer than ever. Like there's so many layers of flying monkeys to like just basically trick you to going broke and losing your society to these global billionaire gangsters. And the UK is definitely on the same track. They're not as far advanced as us, but they have been going on that same track. And one of the symptoms of that is the NHS going broke. And just like they'll scapegoat the poor, that's why it's going broke, rather than, you keep voting for these people who are cutting funding to make the country more and more like America. Um, Their another favorite thing, it's going broke because of really bad nurses. Really bad nurses are causing the problem. Same thing with me, right? So there's this nurse, Lucy Letby. She was a NICU nurse, and there was a spate of baby deaths. And the management, likely taking orders from people above them, knowing, oh shit, this looks bad. We had like 8 babies die back to back. They decide to frame this one nurse nobody liked named Lucy Letby. Um, I don't know why they didn't like her. I do know it's common for a young, cute girl to be hated in nursing, speaking as a nurse. I've seen it many times. Many times, nurses will just form a reflex reaction to any young, cute nurse because, internalized misogyny. And, you know, there's all kinds of drama, like she was infatuated with a physician, which to me it sounds like the jealousy of old fat nurses who didn't like Lucy Letby because she was young and cute and the doctors liked her. Trust me, I'm a nurse. I know how it goes. If you're a young and reasonably cute nurse, doctors will flirt with you. They'll give you priority over the older nurses. Oh, trust me, this happens. And so what happens reactively is the older nurses hate the young nurse, even though she didn't do anything. Because a lot of doctors are assholes. So they'll flirt with, prioritize the calls of, give preferential favor to a young, cute nurse. And then the other nurses will be like, hate that fucking nurse because of the fact doctors treat them shittier than her. But that has nothing to do with her. That's the doctors being misogynists, right? So they figure the answer to misogyny is to be misogynistic themselves and hate her and join in attacking this young, cute nurse who deals with less doctor abuse than they do. Not for any reason, but Epstein like shit in the sense is like a 20-year-old and they're 50 or 60 and they just want to like be unprofessional, right? Trust me, I've seen it many, many times, right? And it's super common for nurses to have drama over shit like this, where younger nurses who are perceived as cuter get hated and get ostracized and they gossip. And I'm thinking Letby was a victim of this, given the conclusion the management, which are probably made up of old, salty nurses, came to is that she's too much of a hussy, too much of a whore with the doctors, and she decides to kill patients to get the attention of the doctors. That sounds like the most made up shit. Some 50-year-old nurse who thinks like a 20-year-old kid because she never matured. So she's still in like a high school frame of mind, like, I hate that cute bitch. And she's like 55-year-old nurse manager. That sounds like the bowels of what one of them would reason. Trust me, I met all kinds of people in nursing, and that's a whole ass type. 50-year-old nurse who's a manager who gives preferential treatment to any young boy who's working as a nurse. And she, while hating the young cute nurse because doctors treat her better and she's jealous, she's acting like the fucked up doctor herself. And she'll do shit like, if there's even one 20-year-old male nurse, she's doing unprofessional shit while accusing the young cute nurse of being like that. To me, that's what it sounds like went down. Like, that they just didn't like, because if you look at her, she's young and cute. And the whole story, like, she's a hussy and wanted to kill people to get the attention of the doctors. Sounds like some shit a 55-year-old, 200-pound nurse would make up, who herself is doing unprofessional shit. And the moment a 21-year-old, reasonably attractive male nurse walks on the floor, they're doing all kinds of unprofessional shit. That's what it sounds like to me. That's just ridiculous. I assure you, a nurse like Lucy Letby wouldn't have to do much to get doctors to pay attention to her when you consider how she looks versus most other nurses. Come here, Archie. I mean, she's not beautiful or anything. I mean, I'm not trying to say she's like a 10 out of 10, but when I look at Lucy Letby and I think of your average nurse, she's going to stand out as distinctly younger and cuter. And she's probably already dealing with unwanted attention from physicians. Maybe wanted, but she's going to stand out in that professional environment as just like in any environment, right? In any occupation, there's a range of ages, and people in their 20s are rare. They're new, right? It just sounds made up. What I'm trying to say is, I know the dynamic of a nursing floor, and I know how unprofessional doctors are, and I know how catty and immature a lot of older nurses, where they're still like in a high school mindset and they're jealous. Like, even if they have kids and a family, they're still doing shit like fucking around with 20-year-old male nurses, and they give them preferential treatment, and they do exactly what they accuse the young nurse of being. It's really them. I've seen it. Let me tell you about my second director of nursing. She was like a 60-year-old woman, and she hated this young Filipino girl. She was a cute girl, right? And this girl, I'm not gonna name names. She was cute and she was young and she was a new nurse. She treated her like shit. She had like a rivalry with her over the doctor. And I remember the nurse they had precept me was laughing about it. And she was like, she looks like a frog compared to her. Just like what? Like she was like a mature, appropriate nurse. Like, and she was just laughing at the clowning, the 60-year-old director of nursing acting like a catty girl. And she's competing with this girl who actually a girl who's like 22. And she's just laughing, like imagining positioning them against each other. Like, you're like a frog, bro. You're an old lady. What's wrong with you? And I seen it. I know that's what happened. Like that's how the ball got rolling. But it started with a directive from their highest bosses. We got to do something about these deaths. And so they decided, let's throw Letby to the wolves. Because you know why? A lot of the nurses didn't like her because I know this. Any young, cute nurse gets ostracized. There are plenty of 50 and 60-year-old nurses who are mentally 12. They're mentally like a 16-year-old girl. And they see a 21-year-old as their competitor. And they'll frame that they're like hussies and sluts because of the fact they're getting harassed by 50-year-old doctors, right? And in reality, they're just revealing who they really are. Like, you wish that was you. You wish you could fuck around with all these guys. And that's why you leverage your power like a sexist man to do it to any young man, right? But they'll contort like this hussy. It's like they're just a girl who's young, and it's actually the doctors being inappropriate, not them, right? And they're jealous of their power of youth and beauty. That is a type. And I think that was involved in Letby, which is why part of the story is this insane accusation she was killing to get attention from the doctors. Because I know how that started. That started with some 200-pound, 55-year-old nurse manager hating her because she naturally gets attention from doctors, wanted or not. And that's kind of immature, self-hating, misogynist woman who never matures is so jealous of that. And she will fucking hone in on those nurses and fuck with them. I'm talking from experience. I've seen shit. Anyway, so I think that's how she got targeted. It started with first a highest level manager demand to do something about these deaths, and then it trickled down to let's get rid of Letby because the doctors flirt with her and then yell at me why I was so slow to call about this. But then when I call, they also yell at me and say, don't bother me about this petty shit. I know. Oh, I know. The nurses used to go to me and say, I need you to call the doctor because if I call him, he's going to scream at me, but he'll be nice to you. Like, if you're an immature, fucked up person, that's going to inspire a lot of hate, right? I mean, I was organically hated and hunted. That's the irony. But I also had, like, young nurse issues too, where, like, really immature older nurses hate you just because, like, they think they rather than them blame inappropriate sexist behavior, they blame you that the doctor is nicer to you and treats them like shit, right? That's how self-hating misogynists work. That's how any slave thinks. Like, rather than be mad at the injustice, they're mad at someone with less power and they want to beat them instead. And that's how they get their power, right? I know it. I know that's how that kicked off. It started with first a highest level manager demand, like, whoa, we had 8 sentinel events, 8 babies died. And then it trickled down to a 55-year-old nurse manager who's obese and didn't like Letby already. And they saw how the doctor was like, hey, Lucy, ooh. And then to her, he's like, why did you call me about this? You're incompetent. And then, like, she knows, like, just the other day, he was like screaming, don't call me about this bullshit. This is an emergency. But he never treats Lucy like that. And she already don't like Lucy, and she views her as competition. I just told you the story. This 60-year-old woman fucking with this 21-year-old Filipino nurse as if she did anything but be born. It's her fault. All these unprofessional 55-year-old doctors are flirting with her and yelling at you. It's not her fault. It's their fault. And it's your fault for looking at her as the problem at 55. You immature motherfucker. I know that's how that got kicked off. And that's also why part of the story is Lucy killed because she's a whore. It's always a whore. She's a whore. And she wants attention from the doctors. And it's like, I know for a fact Lucy Letby didn't have a problem with doctors giving her attention. And that's actually projection from the managers and these fuckers, right? Anyway, you examine the details of the case. They're doing shit like going into her journal where she writes stuff like, I'm incompetent, I'm terrible, I killed the baby. Now, anyone who's fair says that looks more like she's venting to herself and she has guilt she couldn't save the baby. In fact, that's the opposite of what I expect a guilty person to write. I wouldn't expect them to write, I'm terrible, I suck, the baby died. They would probably not say anything at all because they feel no guilt and they wanted to kill the baby, right? And then they're doing shit like when they couldn't pretend it was insulin because the pro-insulin levels came back normal. They're like, she killed with this manipulative technique where she put air in the NG tube and the stomach hyperinflated, which caused cardiac arrest. Conveniently something you can't evidence. And this becomes the method of death, something with no evidence. So basically it's vibes, right? She's a scapegoat for the NHS to hide their chronic underfunding, that 8 babies died back to back, and she's the victim of petty, immature nurse managers who probably felt pressure from their bosses to figure out a way to make this look better for them. And how do they decide to do that? Make up a weird story. Their 20-year-old nurse, Luce Letby, is a whore, a slut, flirts too much with the doctors, and killed in a really weird way that you can't evidence by hyperinflating the stomach with pumping excess air into the NG tubes. And her motive was trying to get attention from the doctors, even though anyone who's been in a nursing dynamic for any length of time knows someone like Lucy Letby would be not having to worry about doctors trying to flirt with her and shit. But you know who's worried about that? The 50-year-old immature nurse manager. Yeah, she's a scapegoat, and she's kind of like UK me.